lot of times people ask, okay, I want to do the business. I understand the power of these products. I like the compensation plan. Now, what do I do to get started? How do I do it? And I want to teach you here a simple system that is working the world over. And the fastest growing groups are those groups that are mastering this system. It's a simple system, and some of the elements of a simple system, remember, we're trying to duplicate. We're trying to create duplication. If you remember from the compensation plan, we talked about building bees, and you get 5 bees who go out there, and they develop 5 bees who develop 5 bees. That's duplication. And in order to have effective duplication, you need a system that's easy to learn, a system that's easy to do, and a system that's easy to teach. Now remember, duplication starts from the very first time you contact somebody, from the very first thing that you do with your new people, your customers, a potential business builder. They are learning from that very beginning. If it seems like you sell them the products and you're a salesman, then they think, oh, in order for me to do the business, I have to become a salesman. And sometimes people can get so good at what they do, they become a professional that other people can't duplicate, and it actually slows down their growth. Okay, remember, if you remember from the manual, we talk about you don't have to be the expert if you know the expert. You don't have to be the master, you just have to know the master. Well, this is a system that you can get good at that emphasizes those same principles. Again, it's easy to learn, easy to do, easy to teach. And we call it the ABC system. It's as simple as ABC. Here's how it works. A, B, C. A stands for the advisor. B stands for the bridge. And C stands for the customer, client, or contact. Whoever it is that you're going to be approaching. Now, when you start out in this business, you actually probably start out as a C. Somebody contacted you, somebody approached you, you tried the products, you listened to the business, you say, you know, I want to get involved. Now you're watching this video because you now are ready to take your first step as a B. And this is where the business starts. If you remember in our diagrams, we use B for business builder. You're starting as a bridge because that's the basics for the business builder. Again, this is the basics for network marketing and how you're going to do that, how you're going to build your business. B contacts C. Where do you get your C's from? Well, we encourage you in the training manual and on this DVD, we've told you about making a list, about sitting down and writing down the names of people that you want to work with or people that you think would be interested in this, people that you want to share these products and this opportunity with. Those are your C's. So how do you do it? You first contact them. You tell them that you have something that you want to talk with them about, or more than that, I often say, I have someone I want you to meet. So in making a contact here, here's one of the most effective contacts that I've seen. And there are lots of ways to contact people, but I like this approach. I have someone I want you to meet. Who is it that you're trying to introduce? You're going to be introducing your advisor. Okay? So B contacts C and say, I have someone I want you to meet. Or maybe it's that recently I was talking with a friend, my A, and I told him about you and he wants to meet you or she wants to meet you. So maybe it's the A wants to meet them. But that's the approach, and then B brings C to meet A. Okay? So let's go over this again. This is the basics of network marketing. You make your list, you take those people become your C's. You contact a C and you bring C to meet A. A presents to C. So A does the presentation. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to learn the presentation in order to be effective in this business. You don't have to learn it to get started. You have to become a bridge. See, your greatest asset when you get started in this business is your relationship with those people on your list. You've got the relationship here. Other people will have more experience in presenting the business, more experience in explaining the products. They might have more success than you do. Obviously, everybody starts off from the very beginning at the very, well, some people call it the bottom, but you start from zero. And you might not have all of the experience that you would like when you present to other people, but you don't need to. And in fact, it's actually better if you don't try to. You can let someone else be your advisor. Here's your goal. If you're an effective B, You create the atmosphere. You create the excitement that C has when they sit down to listen with A. And so here's your goal is C should be sitting on the edge of his or her seat, waiting to hear what A has to say. When you bring C to meet A, it's not something that's deceptive. It's not where you say, well, come over for a bite to eat. And they get there, and not only do they have donuts, they have a flip chart presentation with it. It's not something like that. It's upfront, it's honest, you treat people with integrity, but you build some excitement here. So C should be sitting on the edge of your seat, or his seat, waiting to hear what A has to say. If you can create that kind of environment, you're effectively what we call teeing up. Teeing up A. If you remember in golf, if you've ever teed off in golf, there's a tee, something that you put the golf ball on. And by having the golf ball on a tee, it's raised up out of the ground, it's easier to hit. And it's easier to hit it further. Right? That's teeing up. It's building up an excitement in C, so they're more and more interested in what A has to say. Okay? Now, some people do the opposite. They do a teeing down. You can do it in a way, it's almost like taking the golf ball and smashing it into the ground or throwing it into a sand pit and then trying to hit the ball. It's much harder to do. So the B actually has the greatest responsibility for building that atmosphere, and that's why the B stands for bridge. Okay? How is it that you do that? Well, there are two things. And the first one is very simple. It's just that whenever you're contacting the C, if you're a bridge and you're contacting C, you're just going to say things that show your respect for A. So let's write that word down, respect. You can say, I have someone that I'd like you to meet that I really admire, or somebody that I have a lot of respect for, or somebody that's been very successful in business, or someone that's an entrepreneur that's a real great guy. Anything you want to do, just a couple of sentences here. You don't want to overkill. You can pull that tee so far up out of the ground that the ball actually falls over. You don't want to do that. It's just a couple of sentences, but that's only the beginning. People say, well, in a couple of sentences, how excited can they get? And the answer is they can't get very excited. Okay? Why are we only doing a couple sentences? If you come back to here, remember the presentation doesn't happen until A gets there. A is doing the presentation, so over the phone you're not, you're just doing the invitation as a B. Now the real key though to this respect is not just what you say when you contact the person. The real key is right here. When you bring them to meet A, it's the respect that you show A. I'll give you a couple of examples to see if you can kind of envision what I mean. I have had 2 times that I've had people introduce me to someone else. They asked me to be the A. And one, I traveled for 3 hours to meet with this person and their group. They had 6 people in the room. And this gentleman stood up in front of the room and says, you know what, I really don't know how to sell this stuff, and so I've asked Blake to come up here so he can sell it to you. Not the most effective introduction I've ever had. These people are, they sat back in their seat. They said, okay, this guy's going to try to sell me something. Very, very different. I had another time, a second example, where it was the exact opposite. I get down there to meet the people, and as soon as I get to the place, the person was already there meeting with their C. The B was already sitting down at the table with their C, and they stood up, and they came to the door, and they greeted me at the door. They walked me over back to the table, and they said, oh, thank you so much. This is in front of their C, and they make sure it's in front of their C. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come down here and meet with us. We really appreciate your time. And he introduced me. We exchanged business cards. We sat down, and this person was ready to hear, because of the respect, this white glove treatment, the red carpet treatment that B had shown towards me. C is sitting there, and he didn't know me from Adam before we started. You know, he had heard a couple of sentences before, but when I get there, and B shows me such great respect, he says, wow, if this guy's that important, maybe I should listen to what he has to say. So more than that, it's the attitude, it's the respect that you show at the meeting. And we'll teach you some techniques or maybe some principles of things you can do there to make it more effective in showing your respect. Let's talk about where people should sit. B has brought C to meet A. Okay? So you're there, you're meeting, and ideally, when you first get there, B and C arrive first. B is in charge of the setup. He's in charge of the setting, making sure the atmosphere is right. So B will put C so his back is to any distractions. You know, if there's a cute waitress walking by, it should happen behind C. If it's a busy doorway where people are coming back and forth, it should happen behind C. You want to remove all distractions, so put C to where they have their back to the distractions. A, you are going to position directly across from C. Now, the question is, where does B sit? Some people think B would sit here. They call it a 2-on-1 presentation. That's not the way it works. Remember, you have a relationship with C, so your job is two things. Not only do you want to get C to be on the edge of their seat waiting to listen to what A has to say. That's not the only thing you want to do. You want to make B, as a B, you want to make C feel comfortable. So as a B, you're going to sit right here. It's 1-on-2 presentation. You're sitting next to the C. Okay, let's look at what you say when you first bring them in. Let's say for A, you're going to use Andy. Andy is your A. You bring Andy in and you say, you know, Andy, I know you're busy, and I really appreciate your time and coming out here and sharing this information with us. This is my good friend Carl. Carl is your C. Here's my good friend Carl, and he and I have been friends for a long time, and I really wanted him to meet with you. Thank you so much. And then you turn to Carl and say, Carl, this is Andy who I was telling you about. He's a very successful entrepreneur, and you know, I've listened to him and I liked what he had to say so much. I really wanted you to hear it too. That's the kind of introduction, and you sit down. And then you turn the meeting over to A, and A does the presentation. Now remember, as a B, you can be brand new at this. And you don't have to give the presentation because you have somebody there, an advisor, an expert. Andy is there to do it for you. And after Andy does the presentation, at the very end of the presentation, Andy will ask you, you know, to share your experience. And you can say, you know, I've tried the Rebound. I love it. I love these products. They've made a difference in my life. I'm already seeing an increased energy, and I think this is just great. And that's what you do. You don't have to give the presentation. You just give your story. Let's move on to the next step. The next step is A presents to C. Now, when A is sitting there across the table presenting to C, remember, you're the B in this one. What are you doing as a B? Number one, you're paying attention. You should be listening to this almost like it's your first time hearing it. You can have a notepad out, taking notes because you're so interested in what he has to say. If you are sitting on the edge of your seat, that encourages C, Carl, to be sitting on the edge of his seat as well, listening to what A, Andy, has to say. Right? So that's very important, how much you pay attention. Here's a few things not to do. You shouldn't be talking on a cell phone at that same time. You shouldn't introduce the two people and leave if you can at all help it. And you definitely shouldn't be distracted. You shouldn't be bored. You shouldn't say anything like, you know, I've heard this 10 times already. You're the one that needs to hear it. I'm just going to leave. None of that. You need to be paying attention, just like it's your first time. You're sitting on the edge of your seat, which encourages Carl, your C, to do the same. That's what happens as A presents to C. Something else to remember here, if you need any forms, if you need any samples, anything that's I'm going to consider a consumable item, something you're going to give away, that is something that B prepares. Don't expect Andy, don't expect your advisor to come with all of the sign-up forms. Don't expect them to be paying for all those samples. It's your business. You're the one that's going to be earning quick start on this sign-up, so you're the one that's responsible as a B to have those ready, okay? Particularly samples and sign-up forms, applications, any handout materials you want to give. And you might want to counsel with A ahead of time to let him know a little bit about who the C is and to see what materials he might suggest that you bring. That's, again, that's B's responsibility. And that happens here at the presentation. So during the presentation, Andy, A might say to you, okay, Bob, do you have a sign-up form there? Do you have a sample of the product? And that's your responsibility to have it there. And at the end of that, B tells his experience. After A's done their presentation, B just says, you know what? It's almost like he bears testimony. He says, you know what? I really like these products. I've tried them. I've been on them for the last 3 days, and already I feel an increase in my energy, or my skin's getting better, or you know how I used to have those aching knees? Well, that's starting to go away, or any of that. B tells his experience here. And it's kind of like he bears testimony, uses his experience to reiterate the things that A just said. Now, you don't have to repeat them. You're not giving the presentation. You're not doing a summary. You're letting A do that. You just share your experience. Then at the end of that, you excuse A. You actually stand up and you say, you know, Andy, I know you're busy. I know you've got a lot on your plate. We really thank you for your time. Thank you for coming there. And walk him to the door. Let him leave. And then you go back and... Well, now that we've explained the ABC pattern, let's show you a few examples of what not to do. These are bad B examples. And in these examples, I will be Andy.
I'm Bob.
I'm Carla.
In this scene, Andy and Bob are outside of Carla's restaurant.
Andy, Carla owns this restaurant. She's a good friend of mine. I want you to meet her.
Okay?
All right, come on in.
Thanks.
Hey, Carla.
Hi, Bob.
How are you?
What brings you in?
Oh, just wanted you to meet Andy.
Andy. Hi, Andy.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
All right. Well, Andy, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Take it away.
Do your thing. Andy should be alone soon, Carla. Sorry, he's always late.
I know people like that.
Yeah, he's a good guy. You know, we used to be roommates. You know, he's a bit of a slob, but he's all right. But he should be here. Oh, there he is. Andy, come on in. Have a seat. Speak of the devil.
Hello, Bob.
Oh, yeah, good to see you, Andy.
Hi, Andy. Nice to meet you. I'm Carla.
And pleasure to meet you, Carla.
You know, Andy met with me a few weeks back, and he roped me into this scam, and I figured if I'm going to do it, you got to do it too. So here we are.
Andy.
Scam. I'm out of here.
I've seen such a difference. Most people get a lot of energy, even from a single sample. Bob, do you have a sample for us?
Samples? I thought you were bringing samples.
No samples. Okay. Never mind about the samples. We'll get you a sample. What we'd like to do then is at least leave you with the application to take a look at and the order form. Bob, do you have the application of the order form?
I thought you'd have those. Yeah.
Okay, Bob, I think we need to talk about what it means to be a bee.
All right, come on in.
You two are a little scary. I think I'm out of here.
Here's where the minerals come from. They're an ancient plant deposit from millions and millions of years ago in this rainforest in central Utah. It's covered in a thin layer of volcanic ash and lava, and anyways, they've compacted over time, and they're free from pollution, they're all plant derived, they have incredible benefits.
Yeah, I'm going to be.
Oh, sorry. Let me tell you about our products. The products, they really make a difference. People use them and love them. And I tell you, the first time I started to... You know, Bob, I think that's a little inappropriate. Carla, these products, they're just phenomenal. I can't tell you the energy that people feel, that I feel as I use these products. Look at them. They've got 77 different plant minerals. They've got all of these phenomenal results. We've got world-class athletes that are using these products and seeing phenomenal results. I'm sorry. And I can tell you in closing that I've really seen such great results with the products, and people all over the country are seeing phenomenal results with these products. Don't you think so, Bob?
Yeah.
Well, Bob, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, I mean, I was hoping to make some money. You know, I bought the products, spent a lot on them, and they didn't really do anything for me. But you know, if you can make money, then. Yeah. Andy's a good guy. You'll really like him. He's got a lot to say. He's got this presentation for you, and he's gonna tell you all the ins and outs. You know, the first time I heard Andy, I couldn't believe it. I didn't sleep for weeks. I was so excited about it. Yeah, it was great. You're gonna love it. It's really good. Andy's a good guy. I went to school with him. They're good friends. Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
All right. Well, Carla, this company was founded by Dr. Joel Wallach.
Dr. Joel Wallach's a good guy, too. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard his tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. It's a great one. He talks all about people dying and all these diseases and stuff. It's a good tape. I've listened to it thousands of times.
Wow.
You'll love it. I'll get you one for sure. Go ahead.
Dr. Wallach, he was doing this research on animals.
He did a lot of research, like years and years of research. He did like autopsies and all this stuff, and like he's pulling insides out of animals, and it's amazing all the stuff he's discovered. Like looking under microscopes, and you're gonna love Dr. Wallach.
Anyways, what he found is that animals weren't living how they were supposed to.
How long does your animal live? I mean, do you have any pets, like a dog or a cat?
Excuse me?
How long does your dog live? Like, how long do normal dogs live?
I don't know, like 15 years?
Yeah, like normal. Like Dr. Wallach, they live longer when they're Dr. Wallach's dogs.
Anyways, he started to implement more nutrition in these animals' formulas.
Nutrition's important for dogs.
Yeah. And they started, actually, our dogs live twice as long now as they used to. You ever heard, one of our years is worth like 7 years to a dog?
Yeah. How long is your dog? 15 years, you said? So multiply that times 7.
Okay.
And we found that, by doing that, they actually raised it. There was a time when dogs only lived to be 10 years old. Today,
nobody understands how smart he is. I mean, like, there's people saying he's a quack. There's people, it's just none of that. But it's just not true. None of it's true. None of it.
And if I can continue on.
Please. He's getting to the good part.
Yeah. And anyways, this company.
How long do you have anyway? I mean, I don't want to take too much.
2 minutes. I'm sorry.